Am I the a-hole for favoring one niece over my other nieces and nephews? AITA550 female have a niece, 6, from my older sister, 32. I heard through the family vine my sister was pregnant, so I reached out to her to congratulate her, but she didn't seem at all interested in her pregnancy. But then after she gave birth, she signed over my niece to the father's side of the family and moved on with her life, later getting engaged and having 3 kids with another guy. Almost a year after the birth, I found out from another relative that she gave her up because she didn't like the way she looked. For reference, she has very dark complexion, brown eyes, and type 4 hair. We are white. And told her father, you either take her before I leave the hospital or she goes into the system. When I confronted my sister about it, she said that she wasn't what she was looking for in a mixed baby, and that I should mind my business because she's not mine. I tried to ask her information about father's side, as I wanted to reach out to see if it was okay to be part of her life. No one would tell me anything. I have in the past reached out to her about my other nieces and nephews to be part of their lives, but she didn't seem too interested either. Then during the 2020 lockdown, I felt it was the perfect time to look for my niece. I found her aunt on social media. I messaged her explaining who I was and had asked if it was okay if I could be a part of my niece's life. She contacted her father and grandmother to set up a time to talk. And after some talking, they agreed I could. But only after some time of getting to know me, as they didn't want my niece getting attached, and I bounced later on, leaving her wondering where I went. After 2 weeks of getting to know the family, they introduced me to my niece, and we instantly bonded. We talk almost every day, and she calls me Titi. I'm on good terms with her whole side of the family. Her grandmother says she appreciates all the effort I put into being a part of her life, and can see how much my niece adores me. This year, my niece has started school, so I bought her a whole bunch of clothes and school supplies. Her aunt posted pictures and videos of the gift box in IG, so this is where we currently are. My sister has a fake profile and saw the posts, and she's saying I'm selfish for contacting them when she told me not to. How could I be favoring my niece over my other nieces/nephews? I reminded her I've tried countless times to reach out to her and build a relationship with them, but she always shuts me down. She said that if she knew I had money to spend like that on the kids, then she would have been okay with it. She wanted my niece's info so she could reach out to her, and I told her it wasn't my place to give it to her and I'd have to ask. She said, but I'm her mommy. I admit I got mad and cussed her out for abandoning my niece because of how she looked. She told my whole family I'm trying to replace her and steal her life, and my family started calling me, texting me, telling me I'm selfish for choosing her over the other kids. Now for the top comments. Not today home. But you should definitely tell your niece's father and aunt that she is stalking them. It's actually very sweet of you to help out a single dad with back to school. You could have easily followed your family's lead in abandoning your niece for racist and colorist reasons. Instead, you built a relationship with the family and your niece out of love. I definitely have a lot of respect for you. I've already reached out to her family about the situation. They thanked me for not giving out their information, and all of the relatives have privated their accounts. The sister thinks it's weird she stalks her account, but couldn't reach out to them herself about my niece. They say that my family isn't a reflection on me and that I can continue to have a relationship with her, which I'm looking forward to. I do feel bad though that my family will never able to see the value of my niece like I do. Thank you very much for the support. Glad to hear. It's your family's loss. Everyone in your family could have told your sister to do the right thing, or at least let her know how wrong she is for abandoning her baby because she didn't look like how she thought she would, whatever that's supposed to mean. Everyone in your family encouraged your sister's bad behavior while trying to shame you for doing the right thing. I say screw them, and keep being your amazing self. Your sister gave up her rights to the baby. This means she has given up all rights as to who is involved in the baby's life. You aren't stealing her life. She willingly gave it away. Not today home. Plus, it's not like Opie and the father are in a relationship. She took on the role of an aunt, not mother. Not today home. This is summed up in one sentence you wrote. She said if she knew I had money to spend like that on the kids, then she would have been okay with it. Unfortunately, your other nieces and nephews come with your sister attached, and you will always be viewed as a cash cow. Relationships are individual. You don't have to have the same relationship with all of your relations. Humans have preferences. Things for you to consider. 1. Your sister gave up any rights to that child. That little girl is a stranger to her. She has nothing to do with her, so your relationship with her is none of her business. She doesn't get a say or an opinion. 2. Why is your sister, who was so adamant about not having a relationship with her daughter, suddenly interested? What is suddenly in it for her? 3. You absolutely don't have the moral right to hand out your niece's contact information. Your sister lost the right to that information when she gave her up, legally, based on her looks, morally. 4. Your sister has blocked you from having a relationship with her nieces and nephews until there was some money in it. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for selling my husband's Xbox to buy back the antique tea set that he sold without consent? Me, female 33, and my husband, male 31, have been struggling with money lately. I work at a hair salon while he works at a gas station. Basically have minimum wages that barely pay rent and other expenses. We do not have any savings, nor do we have the ability to save money. It's been like this for years. Recently I found out that the antique tea set that my grandmother gifted me was gone. My husband admitted selling it for $300+ to be able to buy a gaming chair for his nephew, who's a recovering cancer patient. I didn't take it well, and I told him this tea set was important to me and I wasn't willing to let it go that easily. Now, if he was selling it to pay off debts or rent, then maybe. But a gaming chair? No, not okay. He asked me to allow him to explain and said that A, I don't use this tea set like ever, so it's just sitting in the cabinet. B, his nephew has gone through so much and wanted a gaming chair badly, and he promised to award him for defeating cancer. And C, he said he will be giving me money to buy a better, modern tea set. But I refused to accept that it was gone and let go of it. So I contacted the buyer, and he told me I had to pay $450 to get it back, which was unfair. But since he was barely convinced to let me have it back, then I need to come up with the money. I sold the only thing my husband had that was worth money, which was his Xbox. I got $400 and borrowed the $50 from my sister, paid off the buyer, and he brought back the tea set. My husband found out and went off asking how I could do this to him. He asked him to hear me out, then explained that I sold the Xbox since he was the one who gave away my antique tea set, so he was responsible for getting it back. He said he promised to save money for me to get a better set, but I insisted I wanted my grandmother's tea set and nothing else, even if it's worth less because the sentimental value is worth a lot to me. He blew up calling me childish and that I shouldn't have sold his Xbox, the only thing keeping him entertained in these awful times. He started sulking ever since, and kept reminding me that he was the one with the short end of the stick, since I got my precious tea set back. The buyer earned $150, but he lost his Xbox forever. He's refusing to talk to me, calling me evil with zero consideration for how depressed and upset he is feeling. Am I the a-hole for how I returned my antique tea set? I was gonna say 2 wrong things don't make it right, but then I read he did this to fulfill a promise he made to buy someone a gaming chair. He wrote a check he couldn't cash, and he should have sold his items to raise the money needed for the gaming chair. Selling your tea set was heartless. Saving up, which you state you can't do anyway, to buy you a modern one is pointless because the original set has sentimentality. I'm sure he is sulking, but he created this mess. It wouldn't be fair for you to be without an item of yours. Not stay home, but he's not gonna stop pouting for a long time. Not stay home. He stole a valuable item which you endeared in order to buy a mega expensive gift. It belonged to your deceased grandma, and it's irreplaceable and sentimental to you. It was yours and you reclaimed it. It wasn't the necessary solution to sell his Xbox, but you need 2 for tango, and it seems like the viable way to gather the money. Not stay home. He thinks his stuff is more valuable to him. Maybe he should realize things have consequences. I think so, which is hurtful and frustrating. Not stay home, but you should consider getting out of this situation, like now. Not only does your husband not respect your property, but he also doesn't seem to have much financial sense. He could buy a cheap gaming chair for less than $100. He didn't need to spend $300+ on one, no matter the reason. A sizable number of Americans couldn't put their hands on $400 in an emergency, and your husband sounds like he's in that group. That kind of money is a rainy day fund, especially when you're not making that kind of money to quickly recoup it. Your husband needs to get his financial priorities in order quickly, or you're always going to be fighting this battle with him. And apparently having time to play the Xbox. He could spend the time to find a better job. But hey, that's just me. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for grad school for my sister? My sister, 22, and I, 26, female, lost our mother when she was 14 and I was 18. It was a difficult time, but eventually we pulled ourselves together and I stepped into the guardian role. because at the time my father was incapable of caring for us. I deferred my admission, left my flat share, and moved back home. I worked a lot of jobs, tutored a lot, and we survived. When I left uni, I got a great job that paid very well, and we stopped struggling. I paid for my sister's undergrad schooling, housing, because she didn't want to live at home. I made sure she had food and that she never ran out of money. She graduated recently and expressed interest in continuing her education. I told her that I would not be paying for grad school. At first, she thought I was joking. But when I told her that I was not, she got mad because I make a lot of money. Said that if I were a good sister, then I would have no problem paying for her. I told her that I'd been a good sister for almost 9 years, and I'd gone above and beyond for her, and anything from this point on was on her. She has not spoken to me since we had the conversation. Am I the a-hole? Somewhere along the line, your sister has lost track of the fact that everything that you've done for her so far has been a gift. You didn't have to move back home when your mom died. You didn't have to assume a guardian role, and you didn't have to put her through college. You did these things out of generosity and love. However, at some point you have to allow yourself to live for yourself, and she has to learn to stand on her own 2 feet. Not stay home. And hopefully when your sister finishes her temper tantrum, she'll realize that as well. And at a great cost to herself as well. Opie, what you did was incredibly selfless. Your sister knows this. She'll come around. Not stay home. Your sister is entitled. Most people don't have their undergraduate school paid for by their siblings, and certainly not to pay for living expenses. I suspect a paying her own way would do her some good. Not stay home, my friend. Very few parents pay for grad school. You either incur the debt or work, or get scholarships. If she doesn't speak to you over this, she absolutely needs to get a job and see what the real world holds for her. She's beyond entitled. Hell, a decent percentage of parents don't pay for undergrad either, so their kids have to go to work, debt, and/or scholarship route for a bachelor's degree. Plus, a bachelor is required for many non-trade, non-retail, non-food service job, so having one without any debt is a huge advantage among her peers. Not stay home. You absolutely stepped up. But unless you are ridiculously wealthy, and I'm not talking can you pay your bills on time and enjoy a few vacations a year wealthy, I'm talking has a private jet that you just keep available for your use 24/7 with pilot on standby pay wealthy. That is a ridiculous amount of money to even ask another adult to spend on you. And if you are ridiculously wealthy, she's an adult now, and it's completely appropriate for you to just say no. I am not ridiculously wealthy. I just didn't want her to struggle any more than she had to, and she apparently thinks that means that any struggle is unacceptable. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole if I want to go on a trip against my wife's wishes? So I, 27 male, have been married to V, 27 female, for 5 years, and we have a 3-year-old daughter. My wife goes with her girlfriends for a trip every year to exotic and beautiful places. This year, my guy friends have planned to go for a 2-week vacation to Europe. We usually don't go on trips, and I haven't gone on one ever since I started dating, except for 2 to 3 days of camping trips. So I told my wife that I want to go on vacation this time, as I haven't gone on one for the past 5 years. She said no, because she doesn't want to take care of our daughter all alone, and that her work has been a lot more stressful lately. Also, she wanted us to go to Europe on our 5th year anniversary. So I reminded her of all the times I've taken care of our daughter all alone when she wanted a vacation or a break. She said that it's my duty to take care of our daughter, and that I shouldn't be complaining. I told her that I'm not complaining, but it's only fair that she takes care of the kid when I go on a vacation too. Now she's mad at me because I want to go on a trip to Europe where she wanted us to go together on our 5th year anniversary, as well as because she doesn't want the baby care to be dumped all on her for 2 weeks. Am I the a-hole? Editor. She goes on trips that are about 1 to 3 weeks long depending on the location. As for childcare, split. I used to do the dirty diapers at night after she did midnight feedings. However, she no longer breastfeeds since our daughter is older. We just do alternate nights since it's bottle feeding. We alternate bath times. My wife has afternoon shift, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., so she does childcare in the mornings. I have a morning shift, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., so I did childcare after I get back home. My wife leaves our daughter with a nanny/grandparents at 11, and I pick her up at 3 while coming back home. When one of us goes on a vacation, daughter stays with parents for the shift timings. And after the shift, the person at home brings daughter back and take care of daughter until next day's shift start. Anyway, we take family trips over the weekend or week-long trips. She left me with a baby 8 months after her birth and went to Japan. Not day haul because of the double standard. If she gets 1 to 3 weeks every year to have a girls' trip with her friends, you should absolutely be able to get 2 weeks to go on a vacation with friends once in a 5-year period. But there does need to be some sorting out of logistics. Can a family member help your wife out with your daughter while you're gone, for example? Did I read that wrong? Or are they still bottle feeding a 3-year-old in the middle of the night? I know it's not directly related to the question, but that will mess a kid's teeth up badly. There are 0 reasons a 3-year-old would need to eat in the middle of the night, and that child should be completely off the bottle. Right? Not gonna lie, I could barely read everything after that. My 14-month-old is off a bottle completely. But this 3-year-old is still drinking out of a bottle in the middle of the night? That's a bit alarming. Not day home. There is a huge double standard going on that you need to sit your wife down and look at. So it's all good for you to be the babysitter when she wants to go on a play date with her girlfriends for a few weeks. But hell if you want to go on your own vacation? That's not fair. That's her deciding that the only one who gets to have solo fun is her, and her being controlling. Not day home. When couples decide to vacation separately, then they need to make things equal. She gets 2 weeks, you get 2 weeks. This doesn't preclude taking family vacations or vacations together. Besides, Europe is a pretty big place, and you don't have to go to the same place for your 5-year anniversary vacation. That's what I was thinking. Europe isn't a small spot. You could spend 2 weeks in one county or a day here and there over multiple countries, and still have plenty to see when you go back. Am I the a-hole for telling my nephew the truth that no one in the family likes him? This involves me, 25 male, my sister Diana, 31 female, and her son Darius, 10 male. I get along with my sister Diana fine, but I won't pretend I like Darius. I think he's an entitled brat who has gotten away with crap for too many times. I don't think Diana's ever reprimanded him, and every time the little turd acts up, Diana makes excuses for him. He's already been suspended from school for stealing. He's a bully to all his cousins, and I know for a fact no one in my family likes him at all. Both of my parents cannot stand him. My mother, a woman who could find a love in her heart to babysit a honey badger, refuses to watch Darius at all because of his behavior. My father will take all of the grandkids out to fish every few months except for Darius, because he's too tempted to throw him out into the lake and drive off. His words, not mine. On Monday, I got a call from my sister who panicked because she got called into work. Darius was out of school, and her babysitter was not available. No one else in the family will watch Darius, so I told her to drop him off and I would watch him. It was a nightmare. Darius was mad he had to spend his day off at my place. He refused to do anything I offered, made a mess in my bathroom, harassed my dog, and had a tantrum because I would not let him use my work computer to play games. By lunchtime, I was frustrated beyond all belief. I made him mac and cheese and he demanded I take him to Wendy's. He refused to eat and eventually dumped his bowl of food on my floor. At that, I just kinda lost it. I didn't yell or get aggressive at all. I just sighed and asked him if he realized that everyone in the family literally despised him. I explained that he was at my house because Grandma and Grandpa cannot stand him, and in fact refused to let him come to their house because he acts like a little turd. I won't lie, I got pretty brutal. He started crying and locked himself in my bathroom until I came out and sat and watched TV till my sister came and got him. I told her what happened, and I and her got into a massive argument as well. She called me cruel, and I told her that she is to blame, and he would have learned eventually. My family split on this. My dad thinks the little turd deserved it, while my siblings have mixed opinions. My mother has told me she's staying out of this, but if I feel the need to apologize, do it and move on. What do you people think? Edit. A little info. We've talked to Diana about this before. My parents sat her down and told her they will not watch Darius because of how he behaved, and that she needs to do something else. We've all had talks with her about him bullying his cousins. She has done nothing. Not the a-hole in my opinion. He's still young enough to change if he wants to. If everyone keeps the truth from him, he'll try going through life being an awful human, and will get some seriously rude awakenings from people who aren't family. People are more likely to change if you point out that their behavior makes it hard to be around them. If you say everyone in your family hates you, they're more likely to have unfortunate outcomes that are not changing that behavior. It might be just as cruel for this, not the a-hole. He's gonna have to learn one way or another and his mother isn't doing anything. Maybe the reality check will help? I doubt it. He's probably too far gone at this point. Don't bother watching him again. The mother got herself into this mess. She should get herself out. You are 25 years old. He is 10. Is he behaving like a jerk because your sister has no idea how to parent? Yes. Should you enforce boundaries with your nephew when he is in your care? Absolutely. But that's not what you did. You bullied a child. Your behavior is awful and everyone in the family despises when you act this way. It makes it hard to be around you. It means that you are left out. It's very, very different than everyone in the family despises you. You can change your behavior. Telling someone how their behavior impacts how others feel can be a great catalyst for change. Telling someone, especially a literal child, that they themselves are hated by their family is demoralizing, demeaning, cruel, and generally does nothing to encourage change. Clearly, you are an emergency babysitter, and you are still very young and likely not trained to deal with a problem child in a calm manner, but this was out of line and harmful. You need to speak to your sister. Apologize to your nephew if you can, and then explain what you meant to address was his behavior, not him. Because there are plenty of studies that show that kids who feel that they're unloved do not improve, and there are a lot of horrific outcomes to that. Everyone sucks here, yes, but bullying a child, you're the a-hole. Telling someone the hard truth is not bullying. My God, I was bullied constantly as a kid, and even I realized that it could have been much worse. How peaceful was your childhood that you think someone being honest, even if it's mean, is bullying? Next story. Am I the a-hole for not asking my child to give up her room? My fiancé and I are moving in together. We decided that she should be the one to move in with us, since my home is bigger and in a better area. I have a 14-year-old daughter and she has 2 daughters who are 14 and 16. I live in a 2-bedroom home. A few years ago, I finished the basement and added a bathroom to it and gave it to my daughter. The other room is my office that I was planning to turn into a bedroom for my fiancé's daughters. It's a small room, but it's nice, and it can fit 2 beds, especially if we add a bunk bed instead of 2 twin beds. And it doesn't have a bathroom, but we don't live in a palace, so it is not that far away from the bathroom. My fiancé and I have been talking about the room situation and we don't seem to be able to agree on anything. She thinks I'm an a-hole for planning to let my daughter have the entire basement for herself and force hers to share a small room. I think this has been my daughter's room for years. She decorated it with her mom and therefore she shouldn't have to give it up. Obviously her family's on her side and my family's on my side, so we want other opinions as well. Halt. Hard stop and do not go farther with this relationship. We know you will, of course, because you don't see that this is the beginning of a lifelong problem. The only way for this relationship to survive is to move into a different house with equivalent bedrooms for the kids. What would that be? Not sure, but I know it isn't your current setup. You are in a completely no-win situation and you will be the a-hole either to your daughter or your fiancé and her children. Yeah, I just want to weigh in as someone whose parent did this. Moved into a 3-bedroom house with 3 kids. I haven't spoken to them in months, and I don't see them in holidays. It caused a lot of resentment. You're the a-hole for moving 5 people into a 2-bedroom home with a basement. I read a comment where you said this house is suitable for you all. No, it's not. The fact you're even having this argument with your significant other proves it's not suitable for you all. This was your daughter's home first. Making her share or give up her basement room will cause her to resent all of you, and would be vastly unfair to displace her in her own home. However, squeezing 2 teenage girls into a tiny room is also an a-hole move. Your home is not suitable at all. Although question, is your bedroom bigger than the smaller room? If so, give up your room to the incoming 2 teenagers and you and your significant other share the smaller room. If not, get a bigger home. Maybe they can't afford a bigger home at the moment. Pockets aren't endlessly deep. I do agree this needed more planning and forethought from OP. It is a no-win a-hole situation here for him. But shoulda, woulda, coulda right now isn't going to fix his situation, especially if moving isn't an option right now. Swapping his and his partner's room to give his stepdaughters a bigger space might be the only good compromise right now, but will still cause tension. Maybe doing that and calling a family meeting and planning for the move and laying it all out on the table is best, though a soft you're the a-hole for the poor planning is fair. Coming from a smaller home myself and never moving, I understand having to make the best of a lame duck. Then they can't afford to move in together. I was fully not the a-hole until I started reading your comments. You have already made up your mind. You don't think your daughter should give up her room. Fair enough. But you also don't want to come up with another plan. I think you should give up the master bedroom and give that room to the 2 girls to share. and you take the small bedroom, or move somewhere else. It's not fair to take what was your daughter's and just give it to her step-siblings. But it's also not okay to not at least try to make it even for them. I think they need to call up the whole thing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I won't go anywhere with him if his wife is there? My 38 female parents got divorced about 14 years ago after my father had been having an affair with his current wife Brenda for 5 years. Not only this, but he was absolutely horrible to my mom in the process and really screwed her over. I was angry with him and went no contact with him for 4 years after. My grandfather on my dad's side before he passed away told me to try and make amends with my father. As I loved him very much, I agreed to try. I slowly tried to build a relationship back with him and things have been okay, but strained because trusting him has been hard. I also don't like Brenda. I did try, but we have nothing in common. She's a very gossipy person who talks trash about so many people, and I'm more interested in world events and science and psychology. I lived nearby until about 3 years ago and made an effort to see them once a month. I have now moved a 4-hour drive away and can only get up once or twice a year to visit. On one visit a couple years back, Brenda started talking about my half-sister from my mom, saying if she had raised her, sister wouldn't have had all the problems she did, and that my mom was wrong in how she managed her mental illness. Without going into as much detail, my sister has BPD and was very hard to manage in her childhood, and after years of trying to get her help and her running away, my mom agreed to let her go live with other family as she asked. It was either that or she was going to live in a group home most likely. I snapped at Brenda, saying she wasn't there and she has no idea what she was talking about. I was young, but I remember all the pain my family was going through and how hard it was for mom to let her go. Since then, every time we have gone out together, Brenda refused to talk to me. She won't respond if I say hello, she stares at her phone, and talks to my dad as if I'm not there. I ask him to say something about it because it's rude and uncomfortable, and he just says he can't tell her what to do and we need to work it out. I told him if that's the case, I will only visit with him and not if she's around. He says I'm being dramatic, and if Brenda isn't invited, he won't come either. I told him if he won't leave her behind, then he won't be seeing me anymore either. I love him, but I'm not going to let her disrespect me anymore. He's making me feel like I'm being an a-hole because I want to see him, but I don't want to let her treat me this way. Editing to add, for those asking why dad doesn't come visit me, I live on my mom's property and would never even consider having him here, let alone Brenda. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Don't let people into your life that treat you poorly, family or not. Looks like it is time for Opie to go back to no contact with dad and his wife. Not the a-hole. OMG. So Brenda behaves in a horrible way towards you, but your dad can't be bothered to do the right thing and see you without her? You don't need that level of BS in your life. You're not the a-hole. Your dad and Brenda are massive ones though. I mean, the dad carried on a 5-year-long affair on his wife. It wasn't really a debate if he was an a-hole. Not the a-hole. How dare Brenda talk? Who does she think she is? Your father seems to have made his choice. It's time for you to choose. I don't understand how he can choose Brenda over you, his own child. I just want her to be more respectful to me, and even if it's just small talk, to not pretend I'm not there. He said I'm just acting like a victim, and I said no, I'm just not going to be here. Dude, you are a victim of a father who chose his lust over his family and who does it again now. You have a right to act like that. Last story. Am I the a-hole for banning my girlfriend from bringing my friend's ex over to my house? Recently, a friend of mine, Anthony, and his wife, Carly, went through a pretty nasty divorce. They had a child together about 1.5+ years ago, and things just weren't working between them. There were some issues with attraction, he felt it was getting monotonous. He was interested in pursuing other relationships, and ending up finding a spark with a then co-worker who's now his girlfriend, and the whole thing was just a mess. She did end up getting child support and alimony, but there were issues with how his family structures their trust, which meant she left a lot on the table. Still, even now, it's not like she's actually below the poverty line or anything, so it's whatever. I didn't think we would be seeing much more of her, since she's my friend's wife who we weren't particularly close with, and there's no real reason why we would need to have any more contact than him, given that she was his wife. However, my girlfriend has been getting together and commiserating with her for some reason, and now their conflict, which I have deliberately kept away from, is now bleeding into my life too. My girlfriend keeps bringing up how unfair what my friend did was, how he's barely paying anything while they struggle, etc., etc., despite me saying that it's none of our business repeatedly. She's constantly passive-aggressive towards Anthony, even though he hasn't done anything to her. She's even brought Carly over while me and Anthony were hanging out, saying she's her friend and she's allowed to have guests. As you can guess, this has led to some heated arguments. She's glad to know he's having fun eating edibles and playing video games with children. Yes, she even referred to me and our other friend as children to our face. We're both 22, while Carly's exhausted taking care of their child alone, etc. Now, keep in mind, this is my house. My parents gifted me this condo when I graduated, and I pay all the utility bills. I'm letting my girlfriend stay here because her roommate didn't want to renew the lease. She's trying to frame this like I'm not letting her see her friends, which is absurd. She's clearly 100% in the wrong here, right? Am I the a-hole, or is she for trying to bring this woman into our home? So, your friend dumped his wife when life got monotonous after the birth of his child. He fought hard to make sure that she and his child got the minimum of what he had to pay them. Your girlfriend thought this stunk and isn't afraid to say so, while you go hang out with your bro. You're the a-hole. Find better friends, and learn about how to stand up for what's right from your girlfriend. Gentle you're the a-hole to girlfriend because she shouldn't bring ex over while a-hole is actually there. That is not always a safe move. He lasted a whole 1.5 months after his child was born. My friend is a cheater and my girlfriend knows it and is upset I keep that type of company. There, I fixed the title for you. You're the a-hole. So, you're on the side of the guy who got bored with his wife and left her to date a coworker after she had a baby? And you think you get to decide who your live-in girlfriend is friends with and invites over? How would you react if she told you to not invite Anthony over because she's really uncomfortable to see you supporting someone with that view for relationships? I mean, I'd be unhappy if my husband was pro dump your wife and newborn for a new side piece. So why should you expect her to be okay with your questionable friendship? In other words, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. My house that my parents bought me. Also, your friend thought having a wife/child was monotonous, so he cheated with a coworker. He now pays limited child support while she struggles to raise the child. If I were your girlfriend, I would be very aware of what you consider none of your business. Also, that you don't consider it odd that he can come over anytime and it's whatever, but you can't have her friend over. If it's truly none of your business and you're not taking sides, either should be fully welcome.